And today I'm going to be making some soft sourdough tortilla wraps, and I want to make a big batch and keep them in the freezer, and then we'll take them out when we need them. So with sourdough it always takes a little bit longer, so I'm going to mix up everything now and then leave it for 24 hours to ferment. Then we will roll them out and cook them tomorrow. The reason that I'm making these wraps is because I know that the wraps are nice and cheap really to buy, but they do contain a lot of horrible ingredients usually. If you saw my last video, I did a grocery haul and I was showing you the ingredients, and yeah, they're not very good. So I just want to make a simple sourdough wrap, and all that's in it is the sourdough starter, some flour, some olive oil and some salt and water, and that's it. So wraps are just really convenient. You can make burritos, you can just use them to have cold with some salad and cheese in, or you can make quesadillas, or there's so many different things you can do with the wraps. So they're really versatile and really great for lunches, I find. So before we even begin, I just want to show you the ingredients on the packet of wraps that I bought from the shop. And you can see what I mean by the ingredients. So here are the ingredients. We've got so many different ingredients in here. And I was saying in my video yesterday that, you know, I'm really not happy with palm oil, and also the added iron. And someone said to me, oh, that's just the iron that's, you know, the nutrition in the wheat. No, this isn't. This is added in iron. And if you look it up, you can see that they add in iron filings from, you know, just things like, you know, what fences are made of and stuff like that. So I will leave a link in the description box of more on that subject, of how they add the iron in and how it's not bioavailable, it's not good for you, and I don't want it in my food. So I'm happy for obviously naturally occurring iron in my food, but not the added iron filings. I think that's disgusting. And we've also got some E numbers in there. We've got two here, E450 and E471. You know, I mean, oh, it's just awful, isn't it? So I really wanted to be able to make a much healthier version of these wraps, and by using the sourdough starter and letting it ferment, it's going to be so much better for you because you can absorb all the nutrients much easier. So let's get going. So the first thing I've added in here is 1.5 cups of filtered water. Next, I'm going to add in 400 grams of sourdough starter, and this starter doesn't necessarily need to be active. You can just use sourdough discard. Then we're going to add in 3 teaspoons of sea salt, and 1/2 cup of extra virgin olive oil. Then the last thing we're going to add is 400 grams of flour. I'm just using a bread flour. You can use any plain flour. Now we're going to give that a mix. And that looks a little runny there, so I just checked the ingredients, and I actually need to add another 400 grams of flour, because it should have been 800, not 400. So I'm going to add in another 400 grams. Okay, that should be a bit better now, because that was way too runny. That's better. So we mix that and then we can knead it once that's incorporated a little bit more. Like I say, you can just do this in your stand mixer for a few minutes, but I'm going to knead it by hand today. So I've just tipped it out onto a floured work surface and to knead it for about 5 minutes. It's quite sticky, so I'm going to keep adding a bit of flour. And as we knead it, it will get less and less sticky. So that's been about 5 minutes now, and you can see the difference in how that looks, and you'll be able to feel the difference if you're making this as well. It just feels a lot more smooth now, a lot more supple. And I'm just going to form that into a ball, and then I'm going to put that in an oiled bowl. I'm just going to spray my bowl with some olive oil. Put my dough in there. Cover with plastic wrap. And come back to it in about 24 hours. And you don't need to be exact with this. Somewhere between 12 and 24 hours is good enough. And then we will continue. So see you in a moment. So it's now the next day, and as you can see the dough has risen quite well. Now I'm going to just dust the table with some flour so that we can tip the dough out onto there. And then I'm going to divide the dough up into as equally as I can into 24 pieces. Or thereabouts anyway. I find that my bench scraper is a really good tool for this job. Very handy. Wouldn't be without my bench scraper now. To get fairly equal sized pieces, I first of all divide the dough into half, then I know that each piece needs to make 12, then I divide that bit in half, then each one of those bits needs to be divided into 6 and so on. And that seems to work really well without having to weigh it all out. When I've got the right size for one tortilla, then I just roll it into a ball and then roll it out. And whenever I start doing something new like this, even if I've done it millions of times before with a new batch, the first few never go particularly well, and I have to keep flouring, reshaping, and it just takes a little while to get the hang of it, but you have to persevere. You have to not be a perfectionist. Just get those first few ones out, because your technique always improves as you go along. And yeah, at first it feels uncomfortable. It's like trying to clean your teeth with your left hand instead of using your right, if that's what you normally do. Yeah, it just feels very kind of cack-handed, but keep going and just accept that the first few
are just going to feel awkward and they're not going to look particularly pretty. But never mind, keep going, keep going. Don't let perfectionism disable you. And as you can see, I've left the first one looking a very odd shape. I just thought, oh well, let's move on to the next one. And meanwhile, my cast iron skillets are heating up so that they are nice and warm to get these straight into. And then I just need to put them in there, just lightly oiled. And they literally just need about a minute or two on each side and they are done. Easy as that. I very gently brought my tortilla over on the rolling pin to go straight into this hot pan. And even that was very awkward for the first one, but as I went along I got my technique going and it was so much better after a little while. It always starts off bad, so don't give up. And also with the first few that you make, you will discover whether your pan is too hot or not warm enough. So it's all about making those little adjustments with the first ones. I've cut lots of sheets of parchment paper ready to put each tortilla on, and that way they can not stick to each other. These first few wraps are not the best looking. They are quite thick and I decided to use less dough, so I made them a little bit smaller. So I managed to make 30 wraps out of that dough instead of the 24 that I expected it would make. So yeah, I mean, I'm not too bothered about how good the wraps look because we care just about them being nice to eat, you know, tasty and practical. But yeah, they were really, really delicious. So this did work out really well, even though they might not be the best looking wraps in the world. So now we've got to the point where we are just like on the conveyor belt, you know, and just getting that rhythm going where I'm rolling out two, then putting them both into the pans, turning them over, putting them on the parchment paper, going back, rolling another two, getting them in the pans, turning them over, putting them on the parchment paper, and just continuing until I've got the whole batch done, which I actually rather enjoyed. It's quite nice to do this sort of work, I think. In my house, the kitchen is definitely the busiest place in the house, and there are always people eating and cooking and all the rest of it. So I've got 3 teenagers as well as many other children, and one of them decided that they wanted to make a pizza with one of the tortillas before I'd even finished the rest of them. So yeah, they were already being eaten before I'd even finished cooking them all. So here is a pizza that my son made. He's only 13, but he loves cooking. He makes all kinds of things and he loved it. He said it was delicious. After the tortillas have cooled down, I am here attempting to show you how soft they are and flexible. You can easily bend them, they're not crispy, so they are exactly what I wanted, the soft tortillas. And I'm just putting them all on their pieces of parchment paper and then rolling them up and putting them into a freezer bag. And since I've made this video, we have taken them out of the freezer and used them, and they have come out really well. And I highly recommend making a big batch and putting them in the freezer if you want some healthy tortillas that are not full of nasty ingredients that you get in the shop. So yeah, that's it. I made 30 tortillas and I'm very pleased. And if you try this out, I hope it goes well for you. Let me know how you get on. And thank you very much for watching. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.